other government agencies oversee Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac? They are the House Financial Services Committee, which is a 70-member committee. I don't know about you guys, but in my company, any committee over 4 or 5 people is unmanageable and gets nothing done. 70 people in that committee. They have the Senate Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs Committee, which has 21 members, and the Senate Finance Committee, again with 21 members. Big committees, all overseeing these 2 companies. My reaction was, wow, there's a lot of people with their fingers in this pot. But still, everything seemed to be fairly reasonable, and the system worked. But in 1999, everything changed. In 1999, HUD had been looking at all of the loans that were being made to people that were buying houses, and they found that these people were mostly American citizens that had worked hard, saved money, had decent jobs, were financially responsible, and were white or Caucasian. And HUD didn't think that was fair or right. So HUD set target goals for people of different races so that homeowners of different races would be made up of the proper percentages that HUD established. But the only way they could get these percentages met was to eliminate the standards that were in place for qualifying people to get loan approval. They couldn't come right out and say, well, only Hispanic Americans will be approved on Mondays, and Asian Americans on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and African Americans on Thursdays, and Native Americans on Fridays between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m., and Caucasian Americans on Fridays between 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. So HUD issued a mandate to Fannie and Freddie and to all lending institutions to start making loans to people with no citizenship, no jobs, no money, and no financial responsibility, so that poor people and minorities could live the same dream of homeownership in the same neighborhoods as those people that did have citizenship and did have jobs and did save money and were financially responsible. After all, it was only fair. And this mandate was approved by the Justice Department of the United States of America. We all know what happened. The system went wild. Banks made loans to everybody that walked in the door. People bought houses. Banks sold the loans to Fannie and Freddie. The Federal Reserve loaned gobs of money to Fannie and Freddie to buy the bank loans. Fannie and Freddie packed up the securities, rated AAA, happy face. They made and shipped them to Wall Street, where they were sold to you and me. And then Joe stopped making his mortgage payments because he didn't have a job and didn't have any money. What a surprise. And when Joe stopped paying, the people that owned the mortgage-backed securities quit getting their periodic payments. And when they called Fannie and Freddie to demand the guarantee be honored, they found that there was nothing behind the guarantee to back it up. The securities became worthless or impossible to value or trade. Houses were foreclosed, and the system collapsed. It's that simple. I'm not satisfied. In my profession, and maybe in the average Joe's profession, we have to be responsible for what we do. The buck stops with me. So I want to know who the people are that are behind this mess, this scam, this disaster. Well, in 1999, it was President Bill Clinton. He was the president. He was the man at the top. His HUD cabinet secretary, his personal selection for this position, started it. That man was Andrew Cuomo. Mr. Clinton ultimately approved the change that collapsed this system. They don't call him Slick Willie for nothing. Mr. Cuomo, yes, the son of New York Governor Mario Cuomo and ex-husband to Kerry Kennedy, is the brainchild of this social experiment. He gave the directive to Fannie Mae. He left HUD in 2001 and is now New York State Attorney General. Attorney General Janet Reno, yes, of Waco fame, supported the HUD mandate with the threat of prosecution for unfair lending practices and discrimination in lending to those banks and institutions that didn't obey. President George W. Bush, his cabinet selection, James Lockhart, is directly responsible for overseeing Fannie and Freddie. Mr. Bush is responsible, the W himself. The Office of Federal Housing Enterprise and Oversight, and Mr. James Lockhart, who was appointed by Mr. Bush. The mission statement of the Office of Federal Housing Oversight is to promote housing and a strong national housing finance system by ensuring the safety and soundness of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. You know, but both Fannie and Freddie are now insolvent and under government receivership under nobody else than Mr. Lockhart. The Office of OFHEO is being terminated in July of '09 and will be replaced by the Federal Housing Finance Agency that will be handled and headed once again by James Lockhart with even more power than he had before. What a joke. Except this joker's not funny.